Why shouldn't we? Why aren't we?
Goodwin says that's been one of Terre Haute's challenges.
Employers expect quality of life for their employees. If they don't see that quality of life, they simply won't locate here.
He says creating that environment includes clean and paved streets and sidewalks, eliminating blighted homes, investing in our schools, and giving people healthy things to do. He says that was the idea behind the National Road Heritage Trail, which was built while he was city engineer.
We can be expanding this trail network. I would like for people to be able to get around town without having to get into a car.
But the trail needs updates along with city streets.
I'm an engineer. It's simply a matter of knowing what things cost and knowing how long things last. And the bottom line is, if we aren't spending $4 or $5 million a year on streets and sidewalks, we're falling behind. And what we've seen over the last decade is we've only spent about half that.
In Goodwin's opinion, revenue from a casino could assist, and he says would have to, considering the amount of traffic.
I think we need to be focusing right now on how we're going to use that money so that we use it wisely. What we don't want is to have it just dropped into the general funds of the city and county where we're not sure whatever happened to it.
He also says the city's role in a possible casino proposal could really benefit the community.
That can be things like improved streets. It can be things like a fire station in the southeast part of the city.
Making sure the community is on the same page brings up another pressing topic in this election: more room for transparency in city government.
That's an easy one, right? Of course, I do think we need better transparency. Also, we need better cooperation. The whole jail issue has really brought this to the forefront. County and city leaders need to be meeting regularly.
As far as how important this election is, Goodwin says it's crucial. That right now the city is in a process of transforming local government.
What we've been doing has not been working. So, if we elect the same people, things will continue to go on the way they have. I don't think that's in the best interest of our community.
Goodwin says he'd like to see the city focus on growing small businesses and startups.
He says city finances are a challenge and that Terre Haute needs to make correcting short-term debt a priority. He says once city finances are in order, the city then needs to shift financial priorities, putting more toward quality of life.
All candidates are interested in potential casino revenue. That bill was passed and signed by Governor Holcomb in May to make way for a Vigo County casino. Now, to break down exactly how the cash flow would work, I talked with Senator John Ford, who co-authored the casino bill.
He expects upwards of $10 million in casino revenue to come to the county each year. The company that builds a casino has to spend $100 million in construction. 35% of that has to go toward non-gaming entities at the casino. But 3% of the casino gross revenue will go toward the community. Ford says the tax breaks down in the bill, with 40% going to the city, 30% to the county, 15% to schools, which will collect in a general fund, and 15% to the West Central 2025.
There will be an additional gaming tax, and that would go, into the general funds for them to decide. But then there'll be a local agreement. And what the bill says is that the commissioners would negotiate that deal.
Ford says an additional gaming tax of 25% of gross revenue generated from the casino will come to the community. That's on top of the local agreement that commissioners will decide how to use. Ford says there's talk of forming a local committee to assist commissioners in their decision. He says it's important that money is put in a fund that's flexible so many community leaders can apply for funds. Now, Ford mentioned some of that money will go toward West Central 2025. That's an initiative that combines Vigo, Sullivan, Park, Vermilion, Putnam, and Clay counties and hopes to increase population and quality of life.
Another portion of casino revenue will help out Vigo County schools. We learned over the summer after Superintendent Rob Hayworth took over the administration that spending for the corporation has been in a deficit since 2016. He proposed an increase in property tax to generate $7 million a year. That tax would stay in place for 8 years. That will go toward health, wellness, transportation, and staffing. All property owners, renters, and people with fixed incomes would contribute. There would also be a gradual $4 million in cuts to the operational budget over the next 2 years.
This is a part of two referendums on the November ballot, the Casino and Vigo County School Corporation property tax increase. Community members have formed PACs, or political action committees, for both topics. The West Central Indiana PAC launched its Casino Terre Haute website and fundraising efforts in July. People can sign up for yard signs, register to volunteer, or donate to campaign efforts. There's also a website for the Vigo County School Corporation referendum. Their website is yesforvigostudents.com. There you can view a calculator to determine how much the property tax increase would impact you. Superintendent says any yard signs or mail regarding the referendum will be paid for by donations to the PAC.
Since September, 18 community meetings have been scheduled so the public can hear from the school corporation about the referendum. Each meeting is scheduled at a different Vigo County school. Here is a list of the rest of the meetings through mid-October. They started at 6:30 p.m. until 8. We still have much ahead in this newscast.
Next up, we talk with candidate Karam Nasser and talk more about recent taxes.
Honesty, integrity, bravery on the streets of Chicago every single day.
Each team at their best.
Chicago Wednesdays returns tonight on NBC.
You've planned it out on paper, you've shopped for ideas, and you know exactly what you want. So stop waiting for your kitchen remodel and call Inspired Interiors in Linton. The expert designers and installers at Inspired Interiors will turn your outdated kitchen into a beautiful functional space. Your home is an extension of yourself. Let it reflect what inspires you with a brand new beautiful kitchen from Inspired Interiors, with an exclusive showroom only in Linton, in the Linton Shopping Center.
So many options for flooring. Where do you begin? Hi, I'm Becky Osborne with Osborne's Georgia Carpet. We have a huge selection of in-stock wood and water-resistant laminate. Stop in and see why Osborne's Georgia Carpet is the store for your floor.
WTWO, your local election headquarters.
Thank you for tuning in to WTWO's special election coverage, where tonight we meet all four candidates for Terre Haute mayor. Up next is Karam Nasser. We've known him as a city councilman for the past 4 years. He's also a Terre Haute native and a father to 4.
He tells me one of his desires is for Terre Haute to be a community that can retain young people and help them thrive. He says he knows that Terre Haute can do better, that the city needs a visionary and a mayor who will take risks.
Sheridan Park has always, to me, been kind of like a heartbeat of what the rest of our city does.
Potential. That's what Terre Haute mayoral candidate Karam Nasser sees at Sheridan Park. There's plenty of open space, but you have to seize it.
And when I did my event here and blew up the bouncy houses, it was like a magnet, because all these kids started coming here.
Nasser says there's an argument that people don't think they're getting a good return on their taxpayer investments.
There are people that, feel like they have nothing to show for it.
He says he's very supportive of utilizing casino cash flow if it comes after November's referendum vote. And he wants people to see where that money is going, tackling drug addiction, new public safety buildings, better features to our parks.
Whether that's splash pads, a water park, I'm sure they want some of it to be used for infrastructure. Right now we get about $1.4 million to do our roads here in our community. Maybe we need to double that since we're so far behind.
But the 43-year-old candidate does see what the city is worth. He's been rooted here his entire life.
Where we have a lot of assets that most communities would die to have.
After all, Terre Haute is the crossroads of America. Nasser also touches on having one of the best airports in the country and our 4 colleges.
We have a lot of pipeline talent here. That what are we doing wrong to not retain those people here?
Some ideas he's taken visiting other communities around the state and beyond might make a good fit, like creating makerspace, an innovation spot where high-tech equipment is available for aspirations.
Maybe somebody wants to, has a design for a product product that they need help with, that maybe they need to utilize 3D printers to get that product off the board, and then maybe they need help getting somebody to manufacture maybe 1,000 of them.
As for opportunities for those who already choose Terre Haute, Nasser says there's a gap in our skilled workforce. He thinks before bringing jobs to Terre Haute, people need to be better trained, and he thinks that's the city's responsibility.
We have over 1,500 jobs that are available right now in our community that can't be filled because we don't have a skilled enough workforce.
He says the city should match state grants given to businesses through Next Level Jobs to better facilitate employment in Terre Haute.
Until we give people the tools and the education to be able to fill those jobs, we're never going to be able to move forward.
As far as transparency goes, Nasser prides himself on never missing a city council meeting since he was elected 4 years ago. He says he does his best to return every phone call and provide accurate information to those who do reach out. But as a whole, thinks officials should make themselves more available to the public.
If people think that everything's fine right now, then I'm probably not the candidate for them. But I think that if people take a deep down look on what's going on in our community, hopefully they realize that we can do a lot better.
Nasser says this is the most important election in a generation. It goes beyond the term of mayor. He says decisions now will impact the next 20 or 30 years.
He says Terre Haute is years behind the times when compared to other communities like Bloomington, South Bend, and Fort Wayne. Nasser talked about making sure people can see where their taxpayer investments go.
Now, there were a couple of countywide tax increases in 2018 to help set up additions to the community. The 0.75% local income tax breaks down into several portions. That's the 0.25% to construct a county jail, 0.2% for payment on jail operations, another 0.2% for public safety, which was split between the county and the city, and a 0.1% for E911 services.
Two portions of the local income tax have already generated over $2 million since October of 2018. That's the 0.25% to construct a jail and 0.2% for public safety. Both are set to expire in the coming decades. County Commissioner Judy Anderson says both taxes will bring in close to $5.2 million a year to build the jail.
A 1% food and beverage tax also passed to help construction at Convention Center. Since November 2018, that tax brought in over $1.8 million. Of that revenue, $820,000 has been dispersed for the Convention Center. Also, property taxes were adjusted last year. Many residents and business owners saw an increase in property taxes after the adjustment. This while the Vigo County School Corporation's property tax increase depends on the November ballot.
Well, another candidate running as an independent focuses on Vigo County schools during his campaign.
Shane Meehan filed to run for mayor last this election season. He hopes his presence away from politics will speak to the public.
In need of a local mechanic who you can trust? Welcome to Dawn's Service Center, your hometown shop where customer service is our priority.
When customers come in, they can expect courteous service, quality workmanship, and an honest repair assessment.
Here at Dawn's Service Center, we are more than just an auto repair shop. We offer many services ranging from factory scheduled maintenance, general and major repair, to diagnostics and restoration. We provide complete automotive repair and maintenance for all makes and models, including commercial fleet.
We have the equipment and staff to service your vehicle correctly. So come see us here at Dawn's Service Center, the Wabash Valley's dealership alternative.
Save big at Mark's Mattress Outlet on famous name brands like Sealy, Whoops, Mark's prices are so low, he had to agree with the factories to not advertise the brand name and ask about our free adjustable bases too. Hurry into Mark's Overstock sale now.
WTWO, your local election headquarters.
The next candidate filed to run as an independent on July 3rd, a little late in the election season. One big push from Shane Meehan is safety and structural updates to Vigo County schools.
Meehan is a father of three. He says that he's never had a role in politics, and his run for mayor is to show the community that it can be done.
Shane Meehan has lived in Terre Haute his entire life. The 42-year-old retired from the Terre Haute Federal Penitentiary and now works at UPS. But he hopes his next career jump will be Terre Haute mayor.
A lot of people that when I was out talking to them, they said, dude, there's no prayer unless you've been part of the political system in order to be able to do anything or make any kind of change. So I'm wanting to show them that it can be done if you're willing to put the time into it.
Meehan is a West Vigo graduate but showed no bias when choosing a spot for us to talk. We met in front of South Vigo High School. He says schools are one of the most important topics in his campaign and one of the biggest challenges Terre Haute faces.
Structurally, teachers, public safety.
He says gun violence in schools around the nation puts our youth in jeopardy.
I think a lot of it has to do with the kids and what happens at home, you know, and everything else going on around them cause a lot of pressure, and a lot of things are happening that shouldn't be happening.
When it comes to how the city should intervene, implementing a protection policy wouldn't be his first choice.
I think a lot of it would be talking to the kids, getting out and talking to them, finding out what's going on with them.
Meehan says when he was canvassing neighborhoods, getting his petition signed, he heard community concerns like taxes and transparency.
I'd like to see be able to balance a budget while cutting taxes, spending on what we have to have in order to move the city forward.
As far as taxpayers getting their money's worth,
public safety's doing pretty good right now. I would say that's doing real well right now. The infrastructure's doing pretty good in certain areas, you know, especially around colleges. Everything, riverfront properties, those are all doing real well. They're getting their money's worth out of that. But I think more can be done.
It goes back to infrastructure on roadways and sidewalks around Terre Haute. He also says in order to bring money to Terre Haute, the workforce needs to be more diverse.
There's a lot of people that will not come, not just Indiana, but Terre Haute, if the diversity's not right. If we can get more diversity in our jobs and within the community, I think that might be more appealing.
Meehan says he would support Terre Haute having a casino if the positives are plentiful, especially in jobs and tax money.
There's more I want to look into. There's more I want to know about the casino and what would happen here in Terre Haute if it came in.
Another pressing issue Meehan heard from the community while collecting signatures.
They feel like they're not hearing everything that needs to be said. They need more transparency. I heard a lot of that.
Meehan says this is one of the most important elections the city has seen in a long time, that people want to see change.
I'm just here to help. If I get a chance to get elected, I'm here to help and do my best in order to move Terre Haute forward.
Meehan tells me he thinks guidance counselors are just as important as police officers in schools.
He says he doesn't want a casino to take away from jobs or other businesses in Terre Haute. He says his platform is if he can't provide for everyone in the community, then he won't provide for anyone.
Now, Meehan talked about the structures inside Vigo County schools needing repair. The corporation hosted tours of their high schools 2 years ago, aiming to show the community what needs to be done. At the 3 40-year-old high school buildings, our cameras captured HVAC issues, open cracks in doors and floors, water issues at each school like rusting pipes and lockers, and damaged ceiling tiles. At that time, we talked with Terre Haute South's principal.
It seems to be some type of a problem every day within our building or within the infrastructure of our building. It's just getting very dated, getting some years on it.
Meehan also says the community needs more diversity. The Vigo County School Corporation is thinking of a plan that would bring just that to the county. The school board recently voted to create a diversity, civility, and inclusion department. Superintendent Rob Hayworth says recent data showed there's room for improvement in these areas. School officials also plan to create an international residency program. This program would allow international students to continue their education in Vigo County using an F1 visa. There is a similar program in Kokomo that officials hope to use as a model.
It's been very fortunate financially for the Kokomo School District, and so we're, trying to be fiscally imaginative and bringing in ideas that would help us.
The International Residency Program would help fund the Diversity Department.
Well, last but not least, we talk with our incumbent mayor, Duke Bennett.
And an inside look and an inspiration the mayor aims to bring to Terre Haute.
Here at Window World, our goal is to provide high-quality products to our customers without the hefty price tag that you normally see in our industry. Along with these great prices, our lifetime warranty is one of the top in the industry, including glass breakage, covering things like rocks from lawnmowers and kids with baseballs. I'm Brandon Pittenger.
I'm Grace Pittenger.
And this is Addie, Luca, and David, and we are Window World of Terre Haute. And remember, we not only stand behind our windows,
We stand on them.
A vehicle is one of the most important purchases a person will make. Being without it is frustrating and inconvenient. MC2 Collision Repair understands these frustrations. That is why we are committed to repairing your vehicle as quickly as possible without losing focus of quality or customer service. With over 40 years industry experience, MC2 Collision uses state-of-the-art technology and equipment to complete most repairs within 5 days, so we can get you back on the road faster. Accidents happen. We believe it's how you fix them that matters.
It's Patriot and Princeton's end of the month sale. You'll save more than just a smidgen of Patriot. Best new and used Patriot deals of the year. See all the deals at patriotonline.com. Patriot, just a smidgen down the road from you. WTWO, your local election headquarters.
Incumbent Mayor Duke Bennett has served 3 terms as the leader of Terre Haute, and he's ready for a 4th. He says he's never faced off against 3 other candidates in his 12 years in office.
I sat down with the mayor, who says when he came onto the political scene, there wasn't a strong Republican presence. Bennett has also worked in the technical field and has a couple of titles with the Hamilton Center. He says one major role as mayor is making people happy.
Taking a stroll through Deming Park is something Mayor Duke Bennett has done in Terre Haute since he was a boy.
Back when I was a kid, there was actually a zoo here with some animals in it.
A zoo at Deming Park sounds pretty fantastical, and it is a thing of the past. But the idea of drawing people to Terre Haute is still very new.
The first thing I'd like to do is a water-type facility, something similar to what Plainfield has.
It's one project for Bennett if he serves a 4th term and if casino funds are available to help with quality of life. The city would establish an agreement with the casino to determine the city's revenue.
I think right now is a time where we're really reaping the benefits of the relationship that the city has with the state government. I think this election is really critical to continuing the momentum.
Bennett says some time away from the unbalanced city budget in 2015 has done some good. The budget has been balanced for the last 4 years. He's ready for a new police station, which the city has money budgeted. He says the convention center and new parks projects can start rolling out more easily now that finances are in order.
Really would like to have 4 years of not worrying about the finances, and now we're starting to spend some money.
Speaking of money, Bennett says to his knowledge, Terre Haute puts out more financial information on the city's website each month than any other Class 2 city.
Anybody can go look at how much we're spending in every line item in our budget. Most communities don't do that.
One rumbling he's tired of hearing: lack of transparency.
Well, that word gets overplayed all the time. A lot of times people, they don't want to come to the meetings, they don't want to get online and look at something, and so they say, well, how did that decision get made? I didn't know anything about that.
He says he doesn't know how the city could be more transparent.
And you hear people running around running for office and say, I'm going to be more transparent. We couldn't be any more transparent.
He says he provides the community with information each month at Mingle with the Mayor. And then another form of transparency is the city's 311 system, which has been running for close to 6 years. Bennett believes the people in the city are getting their money's worth with the taxes they pay. That's after property tax caps in 2009. The city used to collect $28 million a year in property taxes. Now it's $18 million.
They definitely are getting their money's worth because they're getting the same services at a lot less tax money.
He understands the public safety tax and potential Vigo County School Corporation tax are concerning.
It was unfortunate only because that's been the timing of the need for the money.
Another concern that takes more precedence in his campaign: broken families from which he says other issues stem.
Crime, with drugs, addictions.
There are preparations for this in the city's strategic plan that also aims to ensure an economic and wellness boost. In fact, Terre Haute will be one of the top 3 regions in Governor Holcomb's 21st Century Talent that aims to help people in the community of various education levels find a job that works for them.
Money will flow from Indianapolis here to help us do a variety of things to address all the different needs. It's not just one targeted area, it's all the areas that have deficiencies.
Some highlights the mayor touches on during his career is bringing a convention center and the opportunity for a casino.
He also touched on the overpass on Margaret Avenue and street paving and a partnership with the YMCA to bring back the pool.
Earlier this month, local and state leaders joined together to break ground on the convention center. It's expected to hold 800 to 1,000 people for mid-level conventions and up to 1,800 people for events. Vigo County Commissioner Brad Anderson says once the hotel and parking garage investments are added to the project, it will cost around $50 million. Private investor Greg Gibson says a big push for the center is sporting events and the crowds they generate. The project is set for completion by spring of 2021.
Well, you heard earlier about the possibility of a water park like the one in Plainfield coming to Terre Haute. Now, we took a trip to Plainfield's Splash Island to see what they have to offer. It's an indoor and outdoor water park and a recreation center facility. Splash Island officials say they get 1,200 visitors a day on campus during outdoor water park season. It costs $2 million to operate the facility annually, but officials say there's a 70% cost recovery on that amount with membership fees.
We were kind of the first municipality that built a water park and a facility to this magnitude in kind of Indiana or the Midwest region here. And we've worked with the city of Carmel, the city of Greenwood, just on ideas of their campuses that they eventually built.
Splash Island was opened in 2004. They've had one expansion adding the Leisure River. Currently, there are 3 two-story water slides outside, and officials plan to add 3 more slides, a wet deck, and a splash pad area. The water park is connected to Plainfield's parks trail systems. Visitors are able to visit all Plainfield parks while following the trail.
Well, thank you for joining us for our Terre Haute mayoral race special.
You can find information from tonight's newscast along with all other news, weather, and sports on our website, mywabashvalley.com.